Okay, Mr. Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, on this beautiful sunny day in Georgian Bluffs. I'm going to start off with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Aniashinabek, the people of the three fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi nations who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further, give thanks to Chippewa Saugeen, Chippewa Nawash, now known as Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all diverse people. Moving on to the agenda, we're down to approval of the agenda. Is there any add-ons to our agenda here today? Seeing none, the recommendation is that the agenda be approved as presented. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Barb, second by Steve. There's no discussion. A show of hands, all in favor? That is carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, you can declare anytime you see fit during the meeting. We are now down to staff reports. I'll read the recommendation first. That the 2022 Inter-Township Fire Department Joint Board of Management annual budget is hereby approved, and that the budget be referred to both ownership councils for final ratification. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Sue, second by Barb. I'm going to turn this over to Madam Treasurer. Sam, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to go over the 2022 draft budget for the Inter-Township Fire Department. I'm just going to share my screen. Unfortunately, when I share my screen, I can't see if any hands are raised. So if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns while we're going through the presentation, please speak up. So just looking back onto the Inter-Township Fire Department's accomplishments that were done in 2021, they presented the volunteers with various years of service awards. This included 35 years of service being awarded to 2 volunteers, 30 years of service being awarded to 1 volunteer, 20 years of service being awarded to 1 volunteer. They also successfully completed the annual Christmas toy drive, and they were finding personal protective equipment with much more ease this year than in previous year. They are still ongoing adaptations to the changes experienced due to COVID. They successfully hired 6 new probationary firefighters, and a new roof was installed on the fire hall building. Some ongoing challenges in 2021, as with everyone, COVID being a main challenge, it affected how training was completed, how calls were responded to, and the interactions between stakeholders. They had to return to training being done on a virtual platform, and the association was unable to hold its annual firefighter breakfast in support of the Children's Fund. And public relations events proved to be difficult as you weren't able to group. So just looking at 2021 call volumes, these fluctuate every year as you never know how many calls you may have. The call volumes are the driving factor for volunteer expenses, so volunteer wages and various repairs and maintenance that are needed on vehicles. If the vehicle gets used more, it is more likely that it will incur repairs. So this slide goes over the summary of our budget expenses. We will go into each of these departments kind of in more detail over the next few slides. So the first department is the administration. We have seen continued cost savings through partnering with Georgian Bluffs on the computer supplies, which is why that budget line we are proposing a decrease. Employee recognition, although the actuals were low, this is because during the week of, they had to cancel the Christmas or holiday dinner. So we would like to keep that at the 3,000 in hopes that a dinner or meal could be held this coming year. The next department is management, which includes your fire chief and deputy. The salaries includes a cost of living adjustment of 3.7%, which is as per the Georgian Bluffs personnel policy. Next up, we have volunteers. As I mentioned before, these amounts can be difficult to budget because they are so dependent on the number of calls that are actually incurred each year. Per the collective agreement, there is a 2% annual increase that will come into effect on July 1st of 2022. And the clothing allowance, again, under the collective agreement, we are required to pay to each bargaining unit member a $300 clothing allowance to cover any rips and tears of personal clothing that may occur while they are at a fire. For the fire board administration, these are monthly fees that are paid to the Township of Georgian Bluffs to include CAO oversight, human resource services, monthly fire board meeting administration, weekly check runs, monthly accounts receivable invoicing, year-end audit preparation, this that we are meeting for today, the annual budget preparation, and regular payment processing, as well as management and volunteer payrolls. The next department is communications. We have received notification that Grey County is expected to implement their additional communications in the second quarter of 2022. We did slightly decrease the budget for that line just to offset the first quarter not having it implemented. Next up is employee safety. This is an ongoing need. We always need to ensure that all employees are being safe. We have proposed a new line, which is annual certifications. This would include the annual testing of air packs, pumps, ladders, heavy hydraulics, first aid, and CPR. We will see the savings on other lines as these type of expenses used to be spread out throughout the budget. We're just trying to centralize where it will be and have it kind of all together in one line, just for tracking purposes. The next department is the expenses associated with the actual fire hall. We are anticipating that we will see further cost savings for the heat and hydro of this facility after we had done the roof, as that was completed late in 2021. We aren't too sure what those savings may look like. Next up is education and training. Due to ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, staff were unable to attend some training. So that is why 2021 actuals are a bit lower than we had budgeted. Some of these expenses that were included in education and training have moved now to that annual certification that I had spoke about earlier. And we're also just trying to condense similar accounts. So included in the seminars and conferences, $4,000, we are proposing $2,000 for each of the chief and deputy chief for them to attend training. next up, we have our fleet. So this is the fuels, insurance, and repairs for each of the current vehicles that the fire department owns. You will see a large increase from the budget for truck number 6 in 2021. That was because truck number 6 needed to purchase new tires during the year, and unfortunately, fire truck tires are expensive. And then we have others. So these are just small items that didn't necessarily fit somewhere else. And there aren't too many changes that we are proposing here. So next up, we have a reflection on what we actually accomplished that we had budgeted for in regards to capital projects in 2021. You will see, unfortunately, the heat/AC unit did not proceed, as with the phone system updating of wiring. Any future capital contributions will be determined as part of the year-end audit for the Inter-Township Fire Department, which is scheduled to begin the week of February 21st, 2022. You will also see that the roof replacement unfortunately came in approximately $14,000 over what we had budgeted. So looking at our 2022 proposed capital, we are proposing that a new fire truck for the Inter-Township Fire Department be purchased. I know that is a large expense, but it's getting to the point that we do unfortunately need one. We are also proposing a new portable pump, a new generator for in the hall, and the ongoing replacement of bunker gear. So just a few details in regards to this proposed new trucks. Those two pictures are kind of what this new proposed truck would look like. This truck would replace truck number 7 and truck number 6. By doing this, the truck fleet would then consist of 6 fire trucks, 2 pickup trucks, 1 air unit. Truck number 7, it was originally purchased in 1994 with an estimated useful life of 25 years. So its useful life actually ended back in 2019. And truck number 6 was purchased in 1993, again with a useful life of 25 years. So that useful life would have ended in 2018. So both of these vehicles are operating past their original useful life. I had mentioned before that truck number 6, we had purchased new tires for. These tires that were purchased in 2021 can be moved to a different fire truck, so we would not lose the costs for those.
Sam, may I ask a question, please?
Of course.
I don't know if you can answer it or if might have to be the fire chief. Disposal of these 2, truck 6 and truck 7, is that just a bit of conversation on how you plan on doing that?
I'm actually going to ask Jeff if he could comment on that.
So with regards to replacing, bringing the new truck in, I hope I answered this correctly for you, sir, is when the new truck arrives, then we'll just, trucks 6 and 7 will be put in on to resell or to put into reserve or get out of our fleet. But we have come up with a, we have the ability to go down one truck and still provide the same level of service that we do have now. We've talked as officers, and it will not affect anything on the level of service that we have now.
No, I understand that, Jeff. What I was coming at is that do you put like an RFP out to dispose of these 2 trucks? How there's some value in them, so how do you get that back?
Well, actually, we could probably do the same thing as we did with truck 5. Put it on. They got Brindley Mountain Trucks, different companies that will list it, and like they'll get commission out of that, but we ended up getting, I think it was at 65,000 for truck 5 when we listed it. The values will not be as high in these 2 trucks, but there will be, yes, there is some certain value, but we can list them on Gov Deals. That's a company out of Canada as well, and list them that way.
Okay, thank you. And just a curiosity, you're taking the tires off of truck 6, the new tires make sense. What do you put back on that truck? Do you have the old tires or?
Yes. Like we will check our tires on all the other trucks and whatever, excuse me, ones are getting close to being replaced will be put on that truck. To take it away. Yes.
Thank you.
So just one more comment in regards to this new proposed truck. This truck would be extremely beneficial for any mutual aid calls and any concurrent calls, so calls that occur at the same time. So by having this new truck, we would still be able to provide the same levels of service to multiple areas if at whatever time that is to happen. So next up, you will see that we have provided this board with 3 different summary of revenues. This first summary of revenue, it proposes a 6.2% operating revenue increase and a 354.5% capital increase. So this methodology here would not use any funds from reserves. It would have all capital purchases funded from municipal capital contributions. The second revenue summary here, which is the one that staff are recommending, it proposes a 6.2% operating revenue increase and a 0% capital increase. So we are keeping any capital contributions the same as 2021, and the difference in capital to be funded from reserves. So that is approximately $510,500. So that by doing so, using this, that would leave approximately $119,000 in reserves, not taking into account any 2021 future capital reserve contributions. This third methodology that we have here would propose funding the purchase of the new truck completely from reserves. If we were to do this, it would be a 6.2% operating increase and a decrease of 62.5% in capital contributions. We are not recommending this, as that would nearly wipe out the reserves and only leave $29,000 in reserves. Some of the 2022 goals and objectives of the Inter-Township Fire Department are to continue to train our new probationary firefighters, increase community presence through attendance and public relation events as much as COVID will allow, enhance our collaboration with neighboring fire departments to build better working relationships. We also want to work on preparing a 5-year operating budget and the continued long-term planning for the operations of the fire department. And just to kind of summarize, I did do a proposed 10-year capital plan. This is just a draft, and by no means this plan is to imply that the board would not have an input at the annual budget on the actual capital amounts to be done each year. It's just used by staff as a planning purpose. I'm just going to close out of here. So this is the draft. You'll see we've kind of separated it out into the different types of assets. First up being the trucks. We list each year that it was purchased, the approximate purchase price, the useful life, and when it would be estimated to be replaced. So you will see truck number 6, we are not proposing to replace it, just proposing to replace truck number 7, and that is what is included in our capital budget here. Next section is the protective equipment. These are ongoing capital items that constantly need replaced for volunteers and full-time firefighters. Other equipment includes the portable pumps, a washing machine to be purchased in future years, and hydraulics, extraction equipment, and then costs associated with the actual building. So we are proposing in 2022 the generator. Then in future years, we will need to look at doing electrical switchboard updates, radiant tube replacements, plumbing system repairs and upgrades, repaving the parking lot, building envelope sealants, and a hot water tank replacement. So all of these capital projects over the next 10 years come into an estimated cost of $2,729,500. And again, this by no means takes away from the board saying yes or no to any capital projects each year. And that was everything I had. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sam, for a great presentation. Barb, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Good morning. And we haven't been formally introduced either, so pleased to meet you. Thank you for your presentation. It was very, very thorough. First thing that jumped out at me, and you can appreciate this, is the COLA of 3.7%. I understand this is coming from a collective agreement, but I'm wondering how COLA is determined when there was a 2% increase, as you indicated earlier, on the signed-on agreement. Can you explain that to me, please?
Yes, so for management staff at the Inter-Township Fire Department, they fall under Georgian Bluff's personnel policy, which states that cost of living increases are to be the all goods CPI for the 12 months ending October 31st of the year before. So that came in at the 3.7. So volunteers, they fall under the collective agreement, which is what states the 2% for them.
So Georgian Bluffs was 3.7 for your employees of Georgian Bluffs. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have to go along with that. Ours is 1%, which offers a bit of a conundrum for our firefighters, of course, and one of the discrepancies that we have within the agreement. I had another question regarding the sale option, or the truck 6 and 7, but you've answered that question. Dwight had a similar question: what happens to these trucks, and is there any value in repurposing them somewhere? I think that was all I had. Steve, I think you had a question too.
Steve, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Burley and Samantha. Hi, I'm Steve. I'm just a poor pensioner from the municipality of Meaford. I was just wondering how secure are you on the 3.77? I know you're following CPI. I've watched the budget deliberations from every municipality but yours, because you're not out yet. And they do follow the same sort of terminology, but 3.77 will be one of the highest ones given in Grey County. I'm just wondering how secure the municipality is on that figure.
So I'm just following our personnel policy here. It's not to say council can't approve something different, but that is what I am to propose as per our personnel policy.
Okay, thank you. And if we approve this today, and in the wisdom of council, they don't give 3.7, does that change this one?
I am not 100% on that.
Yeah, that's a question that bothers me a little bit. And I understand the CPI, I understand everything, but there isn't a municipality out there giving that rate right now, and they do follow the same sort of terminology. So,
Steve, may I ask our CEO to answer that question, please? Cynthia, please go ahead.
Right, and it's a really good question. I would anticipate that, as Samantha has explained, that the fire department falls in line with Georgian Bluffs. Should council make a different decision, we would likely be back to the board with an update on what that decision around COLA has been. So thanks.
And
Okay, thank you. And may I ask another question, Dwight?
yes, then I'll go to Matt after you. Then Steve, please go ahead.
Okay, so the 36,000 that Meaford is giving towards capital, is that enough? Samantha, in your thought over the term of the next 10 years to bring the bank account up for future capital expenditures?
So that is something that we will monitor on an annual basis. Right now for 2022, because we are proposing the large purchase of the new truck, I don't want to burden each municipality with the increase. We already have a 6.2% operating increase, which is why staff is proposing to keep that capital component the same. But we will be looking in future budgets, maybe when we don't have a truck that is being proposed, increasing that future capital contribution to ensure that we do have the appropriate reserves and funds available for any years that do require a large capital purchase.
Okay, thank you. And the sale of them 2 trucks, that money would go into the reserve?
If that is the board's wishes, yes.
Thank you.
Cynthia, I'll go to you first and then Matt.
Mr. Mayor, if Matt has a comment on the previous question, I was going to address the current question. So Matt, it might make sense to go to Matt first.
Okay, I do not see him there now, but Matt, are you there, please? I don't see him now.
Mr. Mayor, I think Matt left. I think when we put him on the spot, he left.
Okay.
I just wanted to also address for the board. I just had a meeting with our clerk and our counterparts from Meaford. And one of the things that will be on the list for Georgian Bluffs is to do a fire master plan over the next year. And so I think, Steve, to your question, is it enough? What do we see the capital picture looking like over the next 10 years? I know Meaford has done a fire master plan. Georgian Bluffs the integrated fire department needs to do a fire master plan. And I think that will inform a lot of our discussions about capital moving forward. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Go ahead, Barb.
Thank you, Dwight. I guess my question is just to follow up with a discussion with regard to the 3.77% COLA. Is it possible or appropriate for this board to put forward a motion to reduce that amount and send that back to Georgian Bluffs for consideration?
That's a good question, and I think I'm going to turn that over to Cynthia. You're muted, Cynthia.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the other things that we really need to look at, I'm still getting my head around what the role of the board is in relation to council. So one of the discussions that Matt and Brittany and Rob and I had yesterday is just making sure we understand. I think the agreement and the role of the board needs some updating. The documents are a little out of date. I would say at this point, it's better to leave the COLA in line with Georgian Bluffs. And I think down the road, we might see a better clarification of the role of council and the role of this board and the decision-making around those kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I just want to make one comment before we go to Matt, is that Georgian Bluffs Council have not had any dialect into our budget yet for 2022. So keep that in mind. We'll start that process next month, but we haven't had any dialogue at all on that. Matt, are you there, please?
I am, Dwight. Thank you. Sorry, our internet disappeared at the office, so I lost you for a few minutes. Really, I'd put my hand up to say that I thought Cynthia was absolutely right in her comment about coming back to the board once George and Bluffs have done the consideration. And now I just caught her second comment about waiting till after we've maybe updated some documentation. And I agree with that as well. So I think my recommendation would be we just move forward with it as it is right now. Because I think that fits with what the board has done for many years now.
Thank you, Matt. Sue, excuse me, Sue, please go ahead. Your hand was up.
Yes, thank you. Just want to compliment Samantha on an awesome presentation. My question has to do with the 10-year capital plan. And I just noticed that through that protective equipment, the same dollar values are used all the way out for the full 10 years. I would have expected to see some increases going out over those 10 years. So is that something that gets adjusted yearly as we move through that plan? Thank you.
Yes,
Sam?
that is something that we would monitor annually. We just put the same amount because we don't know what kind of increases we may experience due to those. So we were just trying to make sure we had at least that amount. And as 23,000, 6,000, 6,000, and 1,500 were our most reliable amounts at the time of this preparation, those were the amounts we were sticking to with that. But yes, this 10-year capital plan does get evaluated on an annual basis.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Again, I have another question. I'm not sure who to ask it to, so it's either going to be Sam or our fire chief. I'd like to have a bit of conversation about our $25,000 generator. Is that that's for the fire department as backup, I assume, or what's that all about? And if it is for the fire department, what is the backup for that generator? Is it gas? And who can answer that?
Jeff, do you wish to comment?
Yeah, the generator, at this present time, we have no backup for if we do lose hydro. This past few months, we have been down about 3 or 4 times. One was for about 5 hours. Luckily, no calls. This would be a generator to back up our hall as well. It will be natural gas. We have the gas coming right to that spot. Okay. So, and the electrical panels all in the same area, so it's not going to be a difficult hookup by any means. But that will give us a chance to have our radios charging in the hall here. If we do get some sort of natural disaster and everything's down, at least we'll have a generator to get our guys with portable radios charged, keeping our trucks charged and warm and everything. If we do lose heat or lose something, we have to keep everything running in the hall. That'll give us the ability to do that.
It makes perfect sense what you're suggesting and so on. And is it compatible to the one, for instance, at the municipal office, George West Municipal Office? Same idea?
Yes, very much. Generac is actually will be I think identical to the one you've got in your office now to keep everything running.
For backup purposes, it might be great to be able to have the same generator in place at both places. Anyways, it's just a bit off topic, but I'm just curious.
Yes. Yes. So we did, and that would run that would be a big enough system to keep our hall up and running.
Okay, thank you. And location around the hall for that piece of equipment. It'd be on the lawn side?
Yeah, it would be on the lawn side up around the tower and be boxed in there. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any other questions? Steve, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dwight. I approve this budget with option 2 as long as we can revisit the 3.77 when the municipality gets done their budget process.
Thank you, Steve. And I assume, Madam Clerk, we'd have to go through with a motion to that effect.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it would likely be an amendment to the motion.
So do you want to vote on the amendment first, or can we just amend the motion?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the amendment must first be tabled and finalized prior to voting on it. So if I recall, Councillor Bartley would like to amend the motion to reflect selection of option 2.
That's correct. Do I have a seconder?
Apologies, Mr. Mayor. Do we wish to add clarity regarding the COLA?
Yes.
I think we do. And just a question, it's sort of a big conversation we need to have as this board later is we follow the policies set in place by Georgian Bluffs. So maybe we could have some kind of a verbiage in there sort of reflecting that until we have our actual discussions.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that we don't muddy the waters. The intention of the motion is to approve the draft budget, so I would recommend that we stick to that.
Okay. Cynthia, I seen your hand up. Was that your comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brittany covered my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. So Madam Clerk, Steve is moving this amendment. And
So, Mr. Mayor, if you may just give me a moment, please. I'm going to read the amendment and then we can vote upon it. So, Mr. Mayor, through your chair, a motion will be amended to add a second line reading as follows. With option 2 for funding of the truck purchase, subject to further discussions regarding COLA as included in the draft budget. So in total, the motion will read that the 2022 Inter-Township Fire Department Joint Board of Management annual budget is hereby approved with option 2 for funding of the truck purchase, subject to further discussions regarding COLA as included in the draft budget, and that the budget be referred to both ownership councils for final ratification. So Councillor Bartley, if that captures your intention with your amendment, I would ask for a motion to approve the amendment.
Yes, and just to let you know, if your chief and your deputy chief are two of the finest people in Grey County, but if they were the only two people to get 3.7% in your municipality or ours, I think you'd have a little bit of a problem. So if this lets us come back to that 3.7, I'm certainly for that. Thank you.
so Madam Clerk, I need a seconder for that amendment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton. And we'll vote on the amendment first, Madam Clerk.
Correct.
So show of hands on the amendment before us. All in favor? The amendment is carried. Now, Madam Clerk, do we go back to the original motion or?
Correct. So you will now be voting on the motion as amended.
And I believe we did have it moved and seconded.
You did.
So there's no discussion on the original motion. A show of hands, all in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you, Sam, for a great job. So we covered that fairly quick. Public question period. Madam Clerk, anyone call in from the public? No. Our next meeting is set for February the 8th at 2 p.m. Do we have any other business here today? Seeing none. Someone to move for adjournment, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Mayor Klumpus. If there's no discussion, show of hands, all in favor of adjournment. Thank you, everybody. So
Thank you.
We'll go back to our Roma now.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Back to Roma. See you later.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Thanks, everyone.